Welcome to another episode of the Pixelated Sausage Show. Hi. What the hell was that? Where that your little throat bastard goblin come from? Hi there. I am, of course, Marcus Ness. How y'all doing? I'm good. I don't know. I guess I was just thinking about the last episode I recorded and remembered where I was then and where I am now and what's different. And I just realized and remembered I was sick for a really long time. And now I'm pretty much not sick. That's nice. That's nice. So now I'm just back to having back pain all the time, which is not nice, but we'll get out of there. I don't know what it is. There's a specific bit of pain I've been dealing with for a while now, and I don't know. Part of me wonders, is it because I'm just too thin? I want to put on some weight, so I feel like I'm too not fat. I need some more fat on me, so I want to find healthy ways to put on a little bit more weight. I'm not underweight, but I could put on some, and I could get some muscle too, some extra muscle, because I'm not like the leanness of runners you see doing marathons, where I look at them and I see their legs and their lack of thighs and calves, and I think to myself, okay, that I guess that's how stuff works. But yeah, there's just like this weirdness in my back. But overall, I feel pretty good. So there is that. I don't know what to talk about. I've just been watching Voyager. I don't want to talk about Voyager. I'm continuing with the Plex stuff. I'm on a Supernatural, which the titles, the way they're handled on the discs, is inconsistent and a bit annoying, but I'm through 10 seasons now of just getting the raw rips on my hard drive before I start to do the more detailed, the more bespoke ripping, or whatever the hell you want to call it. And no disc errors, so knock on wood, everything. This is me knocking. As long as there aren't any disc errors, I can deal with annoying discs. Annoying discs, fine. Disc errors, where they just don't work, not fine. So it'll be fun when I have to go through all those and set them up in Handbrake and all that jazz. I'm not sure if every season has commentaries or not, but the way it works on the Supernatural disc, which is the way it works on a handful of series, and it's weird, is that they separate, they put two versions of every episode on the disc. And this is another thing I don't understand, because I've never researched it or looked into it, how disc memory works, in the sense that you have I'm not even sure where I want to get at with here, but in the case of Supernatural, they give you two versions of every episode. One that breaks it out so that you have the English audio and the Japanese audio, and then another one with all the other audio sources. So the Japanese gets separated on its own, or I have no fucking idea. And then with later seasons, I think they started caring less about other languages and only have Portuguese. So that there's a video with English and Portuguese, and then a video with English and Japanese. Except I think still on the Portuguese ones, you get subtitles in French and one other language, French and German. It's usually French, German, and Spanish. That's another weird thing. Why Portuguese? Why not Spanish? Because when you have Spanish audio, in most of the case, it's Spanish, right? It's not Portuguese. Portuguese is specifically Portuguese. Is Supernatural really big in Portugal? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But I'm looking forward to being done with all that. However, I realized, because I have them separated, there are still some series, I guess you can call them that, because they technically are series, that I still would have to rip, which are all my Ken Burns documentaries and documentaries in general. The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan / Chicago Bulls documentary, and a few video game ones, Double Fine Adventure, etc. So I still got those to rip, as well as the nature documentaries. Not BBC Earth, Planet Earth, Frozen Planet. So that'll be fun. But flexing it up as per usual. Going to still throw a party when it all is done, and I could take a break because I have too much anime and no hard drive space to put it on. I'm gonna use an external. I'm gonna separate it. I probably already talked about this. I'm just stretching for stuff. But yeah, that was fun. Well, another fun thing is, like I assumed, and she still has not listened to the last podcast, so he was not spoiled on my opinion of Megan. He does not know still that I don't like the movie. And he just watched it last night. Last night into this morning? Well, it would have all been last night for him, time zone wise, I believe. And he liked it. He gave it 3.5 stars on the Letterboxd. Not to spoil people or give away his secret ratings, but he enjoyed it. So I can't wait for him, because I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I can't wait for him to finally get around to listen to that podcast to hear what I think of it. Unless he asks me in DMs and is really pushing it, I'm going to just ignore any inquiry as to how I felt about Megan. All I did was respond to his liking of it with a ninja gif, but not one that would in any way sway him one way or another in terms of how he thinks I feel. But let's just get on to what I've been playing. Let's make this a short show and get into this weekend, because I'm ready to play some friggin' games this weekend. One in particular. Which game am I going to be playing this weekend? Well, I've talked about so many games to get to for Attack the Backlog and second runs, wanting to replay BioShock so that I could play BioShock 2 finally. But you know what I'm playing? A game I have never mentioned as being something that I wanted to get to sooner than later, though I'm not against replaying it, and I would like to replay it. I never played the DLC either with the original release, but this is another game that was remastered a few years ago, and I'm playing it because my very good friend Lunchbox, who I've mentioned before because he's also a patron and has asked some questions here and there, he was asking me if, because it's on sale right now and the sale ends probably ends Tuesday morning around 5 a.m. Central Time or something along those lines. 3 to 5 a.m. He was asking me if the Alan Wake Remastered Edition is any good. And I told him, I don't know, I haven't played it. And so I said, you know what? I didn't just say it, I screamed it with caps lock. I don't think I use caps lock. Cap locky lock. I said, you know what? I'm gonna second run that shit. And I'm gonna try and stick to that. Which is what you get as a perk if you're a patron. Or maybe it's just something you get as a perk if you're one of my very best friends. You're going to have to figure that out for yourself. The only way to figure it out is to join the Patreon. So, you can either join the Patreon or become one of my best friends. Which one's easier? I think joining the Patreon. So maybe you should do that. Huh? Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. But I'm excited. I cannot remember how long that game is. Part of me thinks it could be, not including the DLC, longer than I think, but then it may also be shorter than I think. I feel like it's going to be 15 to 20 hours, but maybe it's more close to 10. I haven't played it since it originally came out. That was 2010, I believe, so 13 years? Jesus Christ. I can't believe that game is that old. But I'm curious to see what the remaster is like. I do believe I remember seeing some screens of it, and they didn't do what some remasters do and really F up the character designs. So that's good. And as long as the night, I think it would be really hard to fuck that up. But that's exciting. What's also exciting are the games I played this here week for this here episode. We are going to start with Leap, a brand new multiplayer first-person shooter that is very traversal heavy. You have a grappling hook, a dash, and a double jump. And you have 2 different modes to pick from, PvP and a cooperative base. Sort of, it kind of reminds me, I presume, of maybe like a Horde meets Spec Ops type of thing. However, to get one thing out of the way right off the bat, this is a game that is available I'm playing on Xbox. It's also on PC and presumably PlayStation as well. Crossplay is available, but the user base is very, very low. I open it up. I'm going to bring it up so I get the numbers exactly right. Going to the Steam charts, the all-time peak was 174 players. The 24-hour peak was 45. And 22 minutes ago, we had 14. When I was playing, looking at all the servers, it seemed like there were around 20 to 25 players playing the game in all modes. And what that meant was you really just had one group playing together in the basic matchmaking where it'll jump from mode to mode to mode, because it was always one server full in one particular mode, and when I would search all the other modes, there'd be maybe one person in their own server or one of the official servers waiting for other people to join, and no one else. And the cooperative mode, which I believe is for up to teams of 4, there were no other people playing. I did get into a lobby with one other person whose name was Black Dynamite and a number or something, and that made me very, very happy because I love that movie. I also found it really, really weird that did that movie find newfound love, or is there a decent cult following for that movie? Because it went on sale for $7, the Blu-ray, and it became a front page deal on Slick Deals. Black fucking Dynamite, a movie that I saw in theaters with maybe 3, 4. I don't remember how many people. There weren't a lot of people in the theater with me when I saw it, and I was very, very much so the only white person there. But I don't. How did it become a front page deal? There are Blu-ray sales all the time. Black Dynamite goes on the front page of Slick Deals. Fucking, I love you, Slick Deals. You know what's what. That movie's amazing, and that was a great username. I don't know what platform they were on. But, man, now I got the sniffles. Why is my nose running now? My nose has been fine for days, and it's like, oh, your podcast, you're going to be all mic'd up? You know what, it would really suck? If you had to sniff all the damn time. Yeah. But, they hung out for a little bit, and I think if they readied up, we could have started a game with just the two of us, but they didn't want to just be the two of us. So they bounced, and then I left. So I have not been able to try out the cooperative mode because no one is playing it, and there aren't a lot of people playing the game either, and I understand why. The gunplay sucks. The traversal is pretty all right. However, as fun as the traversal is, it's just like I'm turning away from the mic. I don't want to sniff. I want to sniff. As enjoyable as the traversal is overall, your default movement speed is incredibly slow. This is surprisingly. Leap is a surprisingly slow overall first-person shooter. And I'm not sure if in the description it says, this is a fast-paced. No, it's not a fast-paced shooter. Your basic movement is super slow. There's no sprint to my knowledge, so you're just stuck moving at the single speed. And I don't believe there is a sprint because you have at your disposal at all times your own little hoverboard that you can get on and move around the environment a lot faster, which you'll need because the environments are large. This is more Battlefield than Call of Duty in terms of map size. A lot of the modes are similar. You have your control type mode, a capture the tag which is more one-sided, where one team defends 3 nodes or points or whatever they are, and you have to steal all of those and return to your base. And then a basic team deathmatch, and a few others that I never got to try because the place that never randomly jumped to one of those in the single server that was full. But it's so slow. It's so slow. And then the gunplay is incredibly unsatisfying. There's a weird, I think there's some performance issues with it, at least on Xbox. And more so than that, I have to believe this is way better with a mouse and keyboard because the controller aim assist feels really, really aggressive. And there's no way to adjust it in any way. So without it, your aiming becomes a bit smoother, but with it on, and it doesn't feel good without it on, but with it on, it feels way more herky-jerky and snappy, but in the worst ways possible. It does not feel good at all. It makes it so that ADSing seems borderline unless an enemy is so far out of range that it's hard to really lock onto them without ADSing. I would avoid ADSing as much as possible when playing. It just felt so rough and disorientating to a point. And it's a shame because it doesn't. It's a pretty bland aesthetic, but the thing about it is that the traversal, which is a big part of it, feels really, really good, especially when you chain a bunch of movement actions together. So doing a jump, then grappling onto the top of a building, that propels yourself forward pretty fast. You move fast when doing that. and then double jumping after that, doing a few dashes. Maybe your grappling hook resets, the cooldown resets before you hit the ground, grapple again. Like, you can chain together some pretty impressive bits of traversal, and that feels really good. My favorite part of my time with the game was whenever I played, or whenever we would get into the capture the flag type mode, and I would just get that flag equivalent and then traverse the shit out of my way back to home base. It was incredibly satisfying. I was immediately pretty good at it, and that was fun. That felt good. But this is a first-person shooter. The shooting has to feel good as well. It's not a capture the flagger. So ultimately, and with a limited user base, it's super hard to recommend. I was It's funny too, because the people I was playing with, at least a quarter of them were all streamers with TTTV in their name, however many T's are in there, or Twitch in their name, or whatever. I was just thinking to myself, all right, you're probably streaming to no one. Or if you were, you should get them to play this game with us so that we can get into more modes and try out more things. There are bugs galore in it too. I would have instances where I would use my grappling hook to try to get up a rock formation, and then I would get stuck in some part of the environment and just loop around, and I would have to keep trying to dash out of it and hope I hit it at the right time to get out of it. Otherwise, I was just stuck in this loop. So there are little bugs and hitches here and there of that nature. And what I think ultimately is going to kill this game is that it is a premium game. This is not a free-to-play game, even though it sure as fuck feels an awful lot like a free-to-play game in terms of its quality and what it has to offer. It is a $30 game. And when you look at that and compare to what is out there in terms of other $30 games and the free-to-play market of Apex, Warzone, Fortnite, even stuff like Paladins, and whatever the Ubisoft, or the Riot, what is it, Valorant. There's nothing that I know of that is Battlefield-esque that is free to play. I'm sure there's something out there, but nothing that I've played that I have any personal experience with. But even so, it seems dead on arrival. And it's too bad, because there are some, again, the traversal. When you're hitting everything, it feels, even when you're not hit, like, just the movement, if the game was faster, would be like, the traversal feels really good. I wish the game was faster, but ignoring that, the movement feels really good. It has some decent foundational ideas there, and it just sucks that the rest of the game is varying degrees of average, mediocre, and in some very rare cases bad. So that's leapity. I think there was one other thing I wanted to say about it. What was it? What did I want to say about Leap? There's something about Leap. Give me the Leap. Leap it up. Quantum Leap is a great show, by the way. You should definitely check out Quantum Leap. I am vampering and bantering. I'm not bantering. I'm rambling. Bantering. Trying to think of what it was. You know what? Who cares? It don't matter. Don't play Elite. It's, too bad. Too bad. Then, the next thing I want to talk about is Twice Reborn, a vampire visual novel. This is from East Asia Soft and Rodaka Games. So, your two achievement studios. I don't know what else to say. This is a visual novel where you play as a young man who gets turned into a vampire, and then you have to go about stopping baddies and maybe fall in love along the way. I only played a little bit of it and started checking out the story. And the thing about this is that it is another traditional visual novel, for better or worse. In my case, it's for the worse. There's one thing that I will mention shortly that is a bit of a saving grace, but it's not enough of a saving grace. Before that, I get to that. It is the same thing of reading a lot of text, getting a lot of descriptions, not seeing a lot of the descriptions and actions you're reading represented in the visuals on screen. So it's just static imagery with maybe some blinking, maybe a bit of mouth movement when there is dialogue, and maybe a character model, a character portrait, just nudging ever so slightly when they're supposed to be moving. But for the most part, it's very static. And I struggled there. There are very limited choices as well. In the 2 hours I played, I maybe made 5 choices, if that. And to me, that's another thing where I'm like, why? You have to justify being a video game. You have to justify the fact that you're making me play. Like, if I'm not doing something, why am I here? Why am I not just reading this? That is always my question with visual novels. Why are you a video game? Why are you supposedly a piece of interactive media? What are you doing with this medium, the medium of video games? Are you just fucking give me something? And Twice Reborn is another example of a visual novel that does not have an answer to that question for me. And so I found the experience pretty frustrating. However, it's one saving grace, but not enough of a saving grace because there isn't as much dialogue in the game as I would have liked, at least early on in those first few hours. It's way more reading descriptions and actions and stuff of that nature. The voice acting, because every bit of dialogue is voiced, it's just you don't get enough of the dialogue, is atrocious. It is so bad, but it is bad in a kind of enjoyable way. Kind of in that it's, hey, Discord. It's real bad. But I think because there's so much downtime between it, it goes from being kind of enjoyable to being reminded of how bad everything in the game is, including the voice acting, that I wasn't able to really get into any type of enjoyment state or a consistent level of enjoyment, because I would get the dialogue and some of the performances, some of the deliveries would be so bad and so confusing, and in some cases it was clear that the voice actors, I don't think any are actual voice actors, so calling them voice actors is a bit of a stretch. The people who they got to record the dialogue, probably just people on the development team. Some of them, their characters don't care So it makes sense when they sound like they don't care. But then in other cases, they sound like they don't care when clearly they should care at least a little bit. It's just, it's funny. It's funny. And there are times where I would hear a delivery and have a delayed reaction after a few seconds. I would just be like, what the fuck was that? What's going on here? Am I getting punked? And in that sense, it was enjoyable. But does that make it worth playing? No. I think the auto speed for progressing the story and the dialogue and everything, even at the max, is not fast enough to make it an enjoyable passive experience. And I also realized doing that with my Xbox, I recently set it up so that it would turn off by itself after 10 minutes or so of not interacting, so that I would make sure that in cases where I left it on, it would turn itself off if I was doing other things and just forgot to turn it off, etc. And with something like a visual novel, even though it is designed to be played, quote unquote played, or just consumed in a very passive way where you don't have to do anything with the controller, you can put it down and just pick it up whenever a question of you is asked, a choice is provided. You have to still press a button every now and again or something for the console to believe you're actually using it, because having the game running and it progressing on its own is not enough for the Xbox to believe that you're actually, quote unquote, playing a game. So even the Xbox doesn't think visual novels justify their existence in many cases. That's why I'm Team Xbox and not Team PlayStation. It probably works the same on PlayStation and Switch as well. But that was my experience with Twice. Reborn. If you love visual novels, I guess give it a go. But I'm still not a fan of the genre. But I will never completely disregard any visual novel until I play it myself, because there are cases where the writing is really good, and sometimes the voice acting, if there is voice acting, is really good, and it's a solid, if still somewhat why experience. But at the same time as well, I and you and no, like, who knows when we'll ever get another, or what the next Doki Doki will be. And if I completely disregard the genre as being something I don't like and never give anything the time of day ever again, I would miss out on potential other Doki Dokis. And I don't want to do that, because that was such, even when I played it much after the fact and I knew that it went places, I didn't know where it went, but I knew it got weird and things happened. So that surprise was not there. Still going on that journey and seeing how things played out was incredible. And it took advantage of the medium it used, it chose to deliver its story. Because I don't want to spoil anything, but the things that happen and the way things play out, it could only be as impactful as it was with the delivery method it chose to deliver its story. And if I were to miss out on another experience like Doki Doki, the experience I had playing Doki Doki, I would be really bummed. As much as I hate most visual novels, hate's a strong word. I don't hate them, but I just don't understand the majority of their existence, and they're ultimately not for me. Doki Doki Literature Club was my favorite game of the the console version when that came out, because I didn't play it when it initially came out on PC. When the console version, the port came out, it was my favorite game of that year, and it is one of my favorite games of all time. I fucking adore Doki Doki. So it just goes to show that whatever the genre is, don't forget you're a video game. Don't forget you have a bunch of tools at your disposal that you don't in other mediums, and if you don't take advantage of them, then why are you a video game? It's that simple. Last game I played is Pinball FX, which I believe came out a year or maybe 2 ago on PC exclusively. This is the new Pinball FX. I believe it came out on PC as an Epic Games Store exclusive, and it just recently got a console release finally. I don't want to talk too much about it because it is just Pinball FX. The stuff I want to mention, it breaks my heart playing this game because I adored this series for so long. I was a fan and have been playing it for over a decade. Bought so many tables, got plenty via review codes as well, and they always did good by their community, by their fans, their players, allowing you to carry over tables from one generation to the next, from one game to the other. Very Hitman-esque or Rock Band-esque, and it was great. The physics model is not as accurate as something like the Pinball Arcade, but it is just really fun. It's the most polished pinball game out there, and it was always just a good fun time with a lot of great leaderboard systems and community aspects within the game, your pinball wizard store and all that kind of stuff. Oh my god. And with Pinball FX, they've thrown all that out the window in favor of a subscription, but you can also buy tables. And the real killer is that you cannot carry over any of your old tables if you were a longtime supporter, and that fucking sucks. I don't remember the reasoning, but I don't care what it is. It just fucking sucks. And I feel bad because I got a few codes for some table packs, as well as a code for $1,200 pinball coins, which is how much it costs to buy a year pass to Pinball FX. The Pinball Pass allows you to play the majority of the games for free. You can still buy a lot of individual table packs. I'm not sure if all the tables are purchasable, but that 1,200 coins amounts to 100 real world dollars. So to get a year pass, if you're not lucky enough to be someone like me who gets a code for it, that's going to set you back $100. And I just cannot get behind that. The new business model of Pinball FX, it angers me, it saddens me, it makes me feel so many things, but more than anything else, I just, this is a very perfect instance of, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. And I knew this was the business model because I knew this was what they were doing when they did the initial early access jump or whatever on PC. And just sucks. If you're a new person coming to this game and have never played any of the Pinball FX games, it's probably fine. You look at it and you think, well, this is how games are these days. I can buy tables, or I can do this. It's not bad. And maybe when you step back, it's not that bad in the grand scheme of things, or comparatively, or any of that. But if you are someone who has been a fan of this series for a long time, you have supported it for a long time, you have a bunch of tables in previous versions and would like to be able to play them in this new pretty version. The game looks like, just to get to the game itself, it looks great, plays incredibly well. There's ray tracing. It's the ray tracing in HDR, not the best, but it just in general looks really, really good. My favorite table of the ones I played was the Ghost Rider table. I don't know if I played that on the previous version, but that table may not have a lot of color to it. It's very red heavy. It looked fucking incredible. That table looked so good. But they also have some new licensed tables. They had a Garfield one, which I think is new for this version, which takes on a cel-shaded aesthetic, which is cool. It does make the game a lot harder to read, almost impossible to read at times. So there are some disadvantages to it, but it's something that they're able to do and play around with and experiment with because it's a video game, and that's not a real table. So I that's one of the things that was always nice about the Pinball FX game over the Pinball Arcade and the like, where because while they and especially now when they have the, I believe, Williams license, they've been doing more real world table conversions. But for the longest time, what their advantage was creating unique tables specifically for video games, and that allowed them to do a lot of things you can't do in a real table, which is always one of the fun things about it. But yes, it plays well. It plays like it's always played, and it looks great, runs great, all that jazz. It does suffer from the problem any game that is connected suffers from, which is constantly having to talk to the server, which slows things down in the UI and in loading the game and stuff of that nature, which is so much more noticeable this generation as we've transitioned to SSDs that make it so that any game that doesn't do that is incredibly snappy. The UI of these consoles is snappy. And so games like this, or Hitman, or any online focused game, when you have to rely on speaking to a server, there is going to be those delays, which, kind of sucks. But this is the Pinball FX you know and love, so that's all great. But I couldn't stop myself from thinking about the change in business models from every game that came before to this new version of Pinball FX, and it just bummed me out. I couldn't enjoy any of my time with the game because that's all I could think about in the back of my head, and that's on me. That's not something that most people will think about, especially if you're someone who hasn't played these games before. You're not going to be thinking about how this is a huge change from the way things used to be. And if you are a longtime fan, you may be more willing to accept it as well. But I went from in all the other games prior to this, feeling like a player to feeling like a consumer, to feeling like a number on a spreadsheet, on a revenue sheet. Just fucking sucks. And it I think part of it too is just the fact that I did get codes, and I feel even worse about that because I think about all the people who aren't as lucky and will have to pay to play. And it just sucks. You know what also sucks? This podcast. So I'm going to end it. No Patreon questions this episode. So that means I get to end it right now. And yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So as always, or I'm again Mark Kuznets. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. And if you'd like to find all my links of import and whatnot, you can do that over at pxsausage.com. That'll get you everywhere you need to go and want to go. The YouTubes, the Twitches. I don't Twitch anymore. The Twitters there. I don't really tweet anymore either. The website, I website pretty often, so you can do that as well. But that is again pxsausage.com. And if you enjoy this here show and any of the stuff I do or the other stuff I do and what have you, you can go over to patreon.com/pxs to support me and my nonsense that away. I appreciate it greatly. And with a $3 or higher backing, you get stuff like access to some exclusive Discord channels and the ability to ask me questions on this here show if you want to do that. This looks weird. I've got my fingers in one of them reversible octopuses, and it just looked like I was just sticking my hand in a vagina. And like a fucking fleshlighty thing. That's not what was happening. I just picked it up. Calm down. Anywho, that's patreon.com/pxs to support me in my vagina fingering ways. Oh my god, what's going on? What am I saying? But yeah, that's it. That's all. So as always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed this here episode, and I hope you have both a wonderful rest of your day and an absolutely lovely weekend. So for now, adios, arrivederci, bye.